the NFL.
You know what? And like I say, every time we do this, Greeny, we don't need to really discuss my power rankings because they are my power rankings. People don't really get to have an opinion. And number 5, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers. Now, I was on this show a couple of Mondays ago, and you heard Rex Ryan call this defense Swiss cheese. And sometimes it is. But this offense can be government cheese. Yeah, I'm talking about the old school government cheese that was made out of a block. It made the best grilled cheese sandwiches, and it is solid as a rock. And that's what Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams have been for this team recently. And when Aaron Jones is healthy, this offense can flat out go. And I know we're going to say, well, look, they lost to Tampa Bay and Minnesota. There are going to be some weeks like that. When you look at this team consistently, though, if Lazard gets back healthy, the way that Aaron Jones plays, Davante Adams, protection up front, and Aaron Rodgers now elevating himself into the MVP conversation, this is a team that's going to be a tough out. Not yet ready to win a championship, but moving in that direction if they can stop the run. And at number 4, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. A big reason for that is Josh Allen. And I was kind of taking a step back on Josh Allen. I remember the Dan Orlovsky talk. This guy is going to win the MVP. And then we kind of started to see old Josh Allen. But we go against, you see the Buffalo Bills face Russell Wilson. They're going up against the Michael Jackson of the league. And we saw somebody else moonwalking, somebody else putting people on skates. And that was Stephon Diggs. And we watched that allow Josh Allen to absolutely excel. In the one-on-one matchup with Russell Wilson, he went for over 400 yards. The defense made big plays, and that team got to win. They are going to be a tough team in the AFC. And at number 3, the Saints go marching in. I know the people in New Orleans will be like, this isn't high enough. Did you see Breezes? He was doing all kind of things. Michael Thomas, he's so good. I agree with all of those things. But we finally got to see this defense play. And if this defense plays like this, if they rush the passer, if Malcolm Jenkins locks down tight ends, and if those 2 very talented corners play the way that they play, in February, we might see a little Beanie Weenie. We might see a little Eddie Bauer. We might see the chopper style. They might get the gat. But they have to continue to play this way, and it has to be more than when they're just playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yes, I keep this towel here now. You know why I keep this towel here? Because they don't lose. Of all the teams that have had bad days, and the Steelers have had bad days, they still haven't had a day bad enough to lose a game. And isn't that what this is about? You go up against the Dallas Cowboys. There's a little bit of a letdown. You've been taking body blows. You took a couple of shots to the jaw. You actually don't walk into, you walk into the game how Ben Roethlisberger often walks out of games and into press conference. You are limping a little bit. The whole world knows that you aren't feeling good. But what do? You find a way to make plays. Juju Smith-Schuster comes up with the big catches. Minka Fitzpatrick, the big interceptions, because that's what it's about. They are a clutch team with a clutch coach who's one of the best in the world, and we're seeing that right now. And at number 1, it is the Kansas City Chiefs. There really wasn't much suspense in this. This team is playing horse. If horse could be a football game, then Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs would be the tallest dude on your block because you know he could do things that all the little people couldn't. You ever did anybody ever see the movie The Last Dragon? And you remember when Bruce Leroy got the glow? Well, that is how Patrick Mahomes walks on the field every day. It doesn't matter what Sho'nuff is doing. It doesn't matter if he's dripping and he's trying to punch Leroy. He's going to catch it, wave his hands like this. They will be glowing, and he will get jet sweeps to take the snap, do pirouettes, do ballerina dances, find DeMarcus Robinson in the back of the end zone, and there's nothing you can do. And the bad part about it is these are the days they aren't even playing really hard. Because remember what they did to Baltimore when it counted, and they had to cut it on. It was a blowout. We can expect more of that from the Kansas City Chiefs going forward. It's like watching the number 1 team in collegiate football.
As he says, they're his rankings, so it's very hard to argue. But if you were to put yours together, Dominique, would they look like that? Where do you take significant quarrel? Who would be number 1 for you?
No, I have no quarrel. That is a perfect ranking. I don't just wondering if the Steelers can do anything to get the number 1 spot. I don't think that they deserve it necessarily. That's a perfect list, and I do think that the Chiefs are, they're number 1. They aren't undefeated, but they are the best team, and we all know it. We can pretend like they aren't, but we all know it.
What do you think, Dan Graziano?
I voted Chiefs this week, so I agree with Ryan. Steelers, I have a lot of respect for what they're doing. Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin, but I got to say this because earlier in the show this was discussed. The Bengals are going to beat them this week. I don't care who's playing the quarterback.
He's got the Bengals beating the
Remember where you heard
this week.
Remember where you heard it.
We will see if he wants
bold prediction.
Crying in his terrible towel.
And again, we have jumped heavily onto the Packers bandwagon after they played an absolutely ravaged San Francisco 49ers team on a Thursday night. Let's see if they're able to back that up this week. All right, now it is time for something unique.
Ready or not, tell him here I come. Ready or not, tell him here I come.
Look at me, I'm handsome, fast, quick. Doesn't take much for me to, yeah, I'm modest, humble, you know. Doesn't take much for me to be confident.
Our friend Mr. Foxworth, Dominique, brings us his unique perspective every single week. What is our unique perspective heading into Week 10?
I think that Bruce Arians publicly criticizing Tom Brady week after week is probably the best coaching decision that he is going to make all season. It is perfect. I think that first you have to assume that Bruce Arians is a smart person who understands what's going on, and this is not just him lashing out on his Hall of Fame quarterback. There is nothing worse on a team than having a divided locker room. The best thing about being on a team is the we're all in this together feel. And when you have a guy who's a 6-time Super Bowl champ and is like the GOAT, it is really hard for him to feel like he's a part of the team and for his teammates to feel like he's a part of the team. So I think Bruce Arians criticizing him publicly is not about criticizing Tom Brady. If he wants to coach up Tom Brady, he'll call him. It's about demonstrating to the rest of the team that he is one of you. And when you get down in those tough situations, you can look over at him, and he is not some prince on a pedestal. He is just like one of us. And it reminds me of an article I read about LeBron James a while ago. And he comes in. Obviously, LeBron James is above everyone else on his team. But he goes out of his way to build relationships with everybody on his team, to show up at his teammates' events, to make them all feel like they are all together. They're all in this together. Tom Brady can't do that with 60 guys. So I think that's what Bruce Arians is trying to accomplish and is successfully accomplishing by publicly criticizing Tom Brady. It's a smart thing. Tom Brady can handle it, and it's good for everybody.
Okay, so I get it, and it makes sense. I want, Dan, quickly for you to mention something that you brought up here the other day, which is that one other area that there has been between the two of them on at least some level is the bringing in of Antonio Brown. That's something the quarterback wanted and the coach did not.
Correct. I mean, Tom Brady obviously been pushing for this since he signed, and Bruce Arians on record in the offseason saying he didn't want the guy. So, I mean, it's not a stretch to think that that could add to whatever level of tension there might be between the two men.
And then you look at that, and Brian Clark, you're talking about Arians now saying, yeah, well, Mike Evans is open and he's just not being targeted. Now, he didn't specifically say that was a Brady thing, but I put those two things together in my head. RC, do you?
I do, absolutely. If Tom Brady wanted Antonio Brown, and you look at the deep post route he throws that Janoris Jenkins breaks up, maybe that's also a play that Mike Evans is open, and maybe he's trying to subliminally or through the media tell Tom, you know what, we need to use everyone that's open. I think there may be some sort of a power struggle there, but I know there is a lack of relationship. There's a lack of experience, and I think this is just part of it. This is a symptom of the relationship not necessarily being as strong as it could be if they had been together for years.
Okay, 5 minutes left, commercial free until we get to first take. Our next order of business are the Dallas Cowboys at 2-7, tied with the Giants for third worst in the league. It's their worst 9-game start since 2015, which was a year that Tony Romo got hurt and appeared in just 4 games. Dallas, meanwhile, has the second worst point differential and has allowed the most points this season. 290 points allowed, their second most through 9 games in team history. And at minus 13, the Cowboys have the worst turnover margin in the league. No other team is worse than minus 7. It is the Cowboys' third worst turnover margin through 9 games all time. Well, Stephen Jones had this to say in looking ahead. He said, you're changing a culture. You change when you change the leadership. You throw on top of it that we had an unprecedented environment with the virus, and Mike, meaning head coach Mike McCarthy and his staff, weren't able to have interactions with the team other than virtual. So that brings up the question. There's challenges out there, but there's a lot of other new staffs that have had the same challenges. You throw that in there, then you throw the injuries that we've had to work with, and certainly it's been a big challenge. That was in response to questions about the job security of Mike McCarthy. He's not even been there 1 season. We're already talking about that. So I guess I would phrase the question to you this way, Ryan Clark. If you were making the decisions in Dallas, would you look at it and say, bad luck, bad injuries. I'm bringing everybody back next year, and we're going to make a run. That I'm just running this season essentially back with Dak and McCarthy and everybody else, and next year is going to be entirely different. Is that how you would view it?
No, I don't believe you look at it that way. I think you can't look at it in a vacuum. You don't know what pick you'll have next year. You don't understand how contract negotiations will be. And I don't think that this coaching staff in full should come back the same way. When you look at the defensive side of the ball and what Mike Nolan has done as a defensive coordinator, they do have the pieces they expected to have. And they have been terrible throughout the season. If that doesn't improve, I believe that's something you need to look into. And obviously you don't want to give up on a coach in his first year. But, we've seen